Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yes, your breathless host, Lynn Cullen. I'm sorry, I'm a bit late. Apologies to my sister, too, who's been left hanging on the phone. Hi, Suze.
Hi. Well, I adjusted. I called in
a little
later than I.
Well, I finally have to tell you, there is no parking downtown. None. Zero. Half the streets are blocked off. Where they're not blocked off, delivery trucks just stop in the middle and stay there forever. And all the garages are full. You know, they have signs outside, full. I tried 3 different garages, some blocks away from here. So what did I do with the car?
Did you drive home and walk? Where's the car? You just abandoned it.
I pretty much abandoned. I abandoned the car in front of the Monaco Hotel, or the Hotel Monaco, I believe. I think they do it in reverse. And this guy came out, and I said, please, I did my old lady act. I said, please, can you, could I possibly use your valet parking for just an hour or two? And he was so nice. So he said, just leave your car here. I'm not giving you a ticket or anything. You see me when you get back. So.
Oh, you did a really good old lady.
I did. And, man, is that kid getting a tip. I mean, it's going to cost.
Well, then that's why he did it. Make his Christmas.
Boy, it's going to cost me. But I think I'm back to public transportation. This is what that's what they want you to do, and I'm just.
Well, or call a poor Lyft driver or an Uber driver. You know, that works too.
Yeah, but
and
I was talking to somebody yesterday. They took an Uber from their house, which is closer to the downtown than I am, to downtown, and it cost them $22.
Well, what time of day was it?
I don't know, but
they have surge pricing like everything
yeah,
else. If
well,
you're
this
trying
is,
to go someplace at rush hour, then
then it's
gonna.
Well, I'm not paying that. I'm just not going to. It's bad enough.
Speaking
to
of tight Mueller sibling habits, did you know that our brother bought himself an actual nice new car?
You're kidding. Like a real car?
Like he drove around in Mom's
car, and he said, "I want one." You're kidding. So he got a Subaru.
He got a nice, the top Subaru sedan, and you have to understand, our brother has been riding a motorcycle looking like the Wicked Witch from. Why am I blanking?
Oh shit! The Wizard of fucking Oz.
Right, okay, we'll talk about it over the siren.
You know what? And I didn't even mention that I had to take the freight elevator up here. After racing down the street, I had to go in the freight elevator. I can't take much more. These are first world problems. I know.
This is not a test. This is a view inside Lynn Cullen's brain.
Oh, please. Dear God, please stop. Please stop!
That sounded sicker than usual.
You know, sometimes it starts again. That's why I'm sitting here like, well.
No, but anyway, yes, he did.
No, and he drives, and when they have a car.
He's very proud of himself because he texted me this morning to tell me.
Well, the family car, they have like one car, 7,000 kids, and it was like a rolling.
For the last 30 years.
It was like a rolling garbage can.
Yep. Mom and I went to visit one day, and when Kathy wasn't looking, we stole the car and took it to a car wash with apologies.
Oh, my God. Well, that's so. He's 72.
No, he was driving around in my car and having a great time.
Saying, this is a car.
All
this
Thanksgiving.
Is a car.
Hey, I got to go. Can I have your keys? Where are your keys? Where are your keys? And I said, Bill, if you're having such a fun time driving a car that actually goes, why don't you go buy one?
Jesus.
So he did.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Oh.
This apropos of your refusing to pay a poor starving Uber driver extra when it's harder to drive.
What? $22 times 5 is over $100 to get to work for an hour?
Right. You're right. Hitchhike.
No, okay. This is not.
Okay.
Okay.
No,
right.
First world problems.
Yeah, it is, no doubt.
Yeah, but I'd like to point out how big a tip are you leaving?
For him?
Uh-huh.
I'm giving him $20.
That's right. What's the net difference between the Uber and the guy you're going to tip?
This guy came to my rescue.
That's right. So would the guy that was taking you to work. And the guy that's just standing there letting your car sit there, no skin off his back, he doesn't have to pay for gas for your car.
All right,
so there you go.
All right, okay.
I rest my case.
Yeah. Oh, dear God in heaven.
All right. What else is new?
Wait a minute. Bill has written, "Good morning. Thanks to Susan for doing my holiday shopping. I bought a bottle of the olive oil." She recommended.
Oh, enjoy it.
And liked it so much. Oh, so I see. Oh, so he bought it for himself, and then he liked it so much he ordered a case for Christmas presents.
Yep. You bet. I give it as a gift all the time. Yep. Go ahead.
Geez, you olive oil wonks. I'm still using my giant. Well, I'm not a gourmand. I don't know that I couldn't, whatever. But Bill thanks you, and so does whatever that olive oil company is. So they must have more than you think. Well, they had said they just had a few left on Amazon. I don't know where he's getting it. He was going to New York.
I looked that up on Amazon. Amazon was ordering from this one little store in New York. It's the same place. It's just got a portal onto Amazon.
Okay, well.
And they do run out. Yeah. And then you don't have it until the next, until the harvest. And if you become a junkie like me, you start watching sometime right after it gets not hot, because you don't want it shipped when it's hot. So sometime in the early fall, that's when you get your case for the year. And yeah, and I'm so glad he liked it, and I didn't oversell it because it's really delicious.
All right. All right, everybody. And that concludes the olive oil update. Oy. So you said what else is new?
Yeah.
I have. I hate when somebody dies of note, and that's all that's on television for the next week. I
know.
I'm sick of it.
I know. I'm tired of it too, and I can take all of the odes to the man, and his service and all that stuff. But then there's these little peaks that keep coming into my head. Yeah, but he was also the guy. He was also the guy.
But
so if it goes on too long, you start remembering all the awful stuff too, and then you really get irritated.
Yeah, but as everybody's stature has, grows because of the current president. I mean, that's just
well,
what it is it's just a wave of incredible nostalgia for when we had presidents that actually were not fucking insane. We have a caller. Hello. He hung up. Didn't like the olive oil, Susan.
He didn't like the olive oil?
I don't know.
Why is it always my fault?
Okay. Okay. So I just want to say that I just can't. I haven't. I can't do any of it anymore. Do you know what's happening, by the way, in our home state of Wisconsin right now?
Yes. Is that so? Do you want to just not want to put on your woolen underwear
and
go and stand in front of it and scream?
Yeah. Un-effing not believe. I take it back.
Okay, well,
I
let's
take
just
it back.
make it clear what they're doing. The legislature is passing as many laws as it can before Walker leaves to basically disenfranchise the voters in the sense that they are taking all power out of the government's office.
Well, what happens is the voters of Wisconsin in the midterms threw out the Republican governor, threw out the Republican attorney general, and unfortunately did not throw out the Republican legislature.
Well, there wasn't enough of them,
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. So they are doing now, in a lame duck session, they are changing the powers that the governor has so that the Democrat that got elected, when he comes in, will not be able to undo things that he campaigned and won on. Also, they are revisiting voter suppression efforts. And there are thousands of people outside the state capitol building. It is, in the teens, wind chills, and they were out there all night screaming, yelling. Can you imagine? This is what Republicans do when they lose.
That's right, and the leader of the House, a Republican, was heard to say, "Well, I'm concerned. Of course, I'm doing this. He's got all these liberal policies."
But the voters voted for him.
That's right.
It's absolutely, it's mind-boggling. Republicans simply cannot tolerate democracy. They win by suppressing people's votes. We'll get to what's going on in that still uncalled North Carolina race. By the way, you might not...
Right, where they might have to have a new election.
They might have to have a new election because of the fraud committed by the Republican candidate.
Well, and let's just say what that guy was doing. That guy had a field office and was sending his people into predominantly African-American areas and collecting their absentee ballots to mail them for them.
Guess what? Somewhere, where did I see it? I saw how many absentee ballots were not returned. And it is... Oh my God! They here it is.
Out. It's not only that, but it's illegal.
Right. I mean, that's not you
have to mail your own ballot. It's illegal to hand it to a stranger and for that stranger to take it and mail it.
Right. Also, they're saying it appears that there was actually the first red flag was that a ton more people in that county were requesting absentee ballots than ever had done so. So it could be they actually got to people and said, just request this could be bigger.
You just ask for it and we'll come pick it up. I'm sure that's what they did. That's exactly what they did.
I'm looking for the number of ballots that didn't come back. The percentages
they were very close. That election was so close. That's why they're going to have another election if they can show this. And but I mean, this is just so incredibly appalling. You know, and they are, and what at least Walker did was so transparently awful. I desire to keep my populace ignorant. Therefore, I'm going to pull the rug out from the teachers, from public education. I'm going to kill the University of Wisconsin as fast as I can, because you can't rebuild it anymore as fast as you can destroy it. So, that they did. And to what end? To create a place where they can feed whatever they want to a voter, and so that they will continue to vote. It's so appalling that I can't believe everybody doesn't notice.
Okay, listen to this. A disproportionate number of unreturned ballots had been sent to voters of color. Nearly 55% of ballots mailed to Native American voters, 36% mailed to African American voters were not returned. 55% of Native American absentee ballots were not returned. 36% of African American not returned.
Well, you know what that says to me? That these people, that they were asking for absentee ballots without the knowledge or permission of any given voter, and that they were just going to mailboxes and picking them up.
There was one woman who this happened to who said, well, this lady came to the door, and she said, I just gotten the absentee ballot a few days earlier, and she said, I'm here to pick up your absentee ballot. And I told her, oh, I haven't even filled it out yet. She said, well, why don't you do that and give it to me? And she said, I filled out like the top few things. And then she said, that's good enough. I'll fill in the rest.
Oh, my God. Did the woman hand her the ballot?
I don't know. That's all. That was the quote I saw. Okay. So.
Yeah, and let's make it clear, these are Republicans doing this.
Oh, this is and also what's going on in Wisconsin is also going on in the next door in Michigan, where also a Republican governor and state office holders were thrown out by the voters and Democrats put in, and they are now actively trying to make sure that the people that the voters voted for will be hamstrung in their efforts to do their jobs as they have always been done. I hope that this kind of thing means that in 2 years, Wisconsin voters will throw them out. Every single effing one of them, and have a Democratic legislature. I just, how can these people claim to be American? I mean, if they don't even value what I am, I'm beyond. By the way, the first state that did something like this, it's only been done once before, that a state had the gall after an election to try to then
to leave the governor hog-tied to his chair.
Emasculate the governor, right. Guess what state it was? And they succeeded in large part, although some of it, I believe some of it was they went to court, and some of it was declared unconstitutional. It was North Carolina.
Oh, of course.
So, I mean, boy, I just, when people, the guy who ran for Ryan's seat who lost, the guy, that iron stash, the sort of,
yeah.
He went to a hearing that was being held by this Republican dominated committee that's pushing this stuff through. And he showed up because to speak on it, and he said, "What is it you guys don't understand? I stood for election. I put a lot of energy into running. The voters said no to me. I lost. So I go home, and the guy who won goes to Washington. I understand that's the way this works. Why don't you?" I mean, whatever happened to you lost? Go away.
Well, they don't know what to do when they win, and they don't know what to do when they lost. They just want more.
By the way, the guy...
They want total power and control.
By the way, the guy who the FBI is involved in the investigation in North Carolina. The guy who they're zeroing in on, who appears to have been running this operation, is a convicted felon.
Oh, gee. But as we can see now, some of the best people are going to be and are convicted felons.
Yes, indeedy.
Like the whole Trump administration.
Well, I have
At
this.
Least the first slate.
I have this little exactly. I read this little thing. It was an analysis piece about the Mueller investigation, and it says this: if the special counsel has proved anything in his 18-month-long investigation, it is that Mr. Trump has surrounded himself throughout 2016 and 2017, 2018 with people to whom lying seems to be second nature. They lied to federal authorities even when they had lawyers advising them, even when the risk of getting caught was high, and even when the consequences for them were dire. Lying is what they know. Lying is what they do. These are just, it's a rogues gallery.
It really is. And, I mean, how surprised are we that Netanyahu is, in a situation where his police are recommending that he be thrown in jail because...
Yeah, but he beats these things every time.
All the stuff that Trump is doing.
I know, but they keep bringing charges against him and they keep disappearing over there. I mean that...
Oh, yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Well, I just want to point out this, that let us remember who the current Attorney General of the United States is. Well, acting Attorney General, okay?
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes, that would be Mr. Whitaker. And he is another crook. He's a crook in charge now of the Mueller investigation.
Right. A real crook.
A real crook.
He ran one of those defrauding companies.
Well,
Trump University.
It was called the World Patent Marketing. He was on their board. He said, "Well, I was on the board, but I didn't really know what was going on." When in fact, he was very much involved. And the reason we know this is the Federal Trade Commission has all kind of documents, which now, through the Freedom of Information Act, the Wall Street Journal and other news organizations have gotten from the Federal Trade Commission. And this is from the Wall Street Journal. Matthew Whitaker, the acting Attorney General of this country, had much, much more involvement in that now company that has been shut down by the federal government, than has been previously known. And they have a trove of emails indicating he knew in advance that there was big trouble and that there was fraud going on. There's one where a customer sends him, because he looked up who's on their board, and he sent Whitaker an email saying, here is what has happened to me. Please understand what's going on. He wrote this: you don't know how many people are being scammed and how fraudulent and how much money they are robbing from people. Guess what Whitaker did when he got that? He sent it off to the CEO and put this when he forwarded it. Just forwarding this along, I hope all's well.
La-di-da.
So, Whitaker also, when questioned by the Federal Trade Commission about that call, and about the email and stuff, told them he never emailed or wrote to any consumers, which is an absolute lie. They've got the emails now, and wouldn't have personally ever said anything about the business, which is, again, a provable lie. So I just want to add to the nest, the viper's nest of lying crooks that are now not only in our government, but are heading our government. And let's acknowledge they're Republicans again. They are crooks, certifiable crooks. Listen to this.
Right. That's not even hyperbole. They're actually crooks.
Listen to this. Here's what else the Wall Street Journal found. When Whitaker was appointed by remember William Jefferson Sessions, who used to be the Attorney General? When Sessions hired Whitaker as his chief of staff, when the Attorney General of the United States hired this crook as his chief of staff, here is a memo or an email. I want to be clear. Email that came from a Federal Trade Commission lawyer to his colleagues. Here it is. You're not going to believe this. Matt Whitaker is now chief of staff to the Attorney General, period, of the United States, period. So over at the FTC, they're sending around, do you believe this guy, this crook who we closed down, this company who we made pay, I forget how many millions of dollars in fines. This guy is now the right-hand man to the Attorney General of the United States. God knows what they thought when they found out he was now the acting Attorney General of the United States. Here's something else about the crook. Whitaker somehow in the last year was paid over $1 million by unknown people. He was paid this because he was supposedly the head of a mysterious charity. He was the only
sort of a
what?
Charitable sort of a guy. He seems sort of a charitable.
Oh yeah, he was the only employee. It turns out the money he was getting, the $1 million plus, was coming from a group called FACT, which how do they come up with this? FACT, which is an acronym that stands for Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust. And
No, it actually stands for fuck accountability and civic trust.
And and here is what he did for that $1.2 million. This is how Trump knew about him. He showed up on CNN. See, being head of this organization, he wasn't head of fact. He was paid by fact for some other nonsensical research thing that gave him the resume that allowed him to be somebody that CNN and Fox and others would
hire and use,
would use as a spokesman for the Republican cause. Mm-hmm. So that's what he did. He made television and radio appearances attacking Hillary Clinton, attacking the special counsel. Meanwhile, who funds this fact? It is all dark money. Anonymous conservative benefactors.
Well, we don't know that they're conservative. They could be foreign, countries. You don't know who it is. If it's dark, it's dark.
It's dark. So, who is this? He was an obscure nobody, a former U.S. attorney who got his position in one wonders how. He ran in a Republican primary in 2014, wanted to be a senator. He came in fourth in a four-man race. Anyway, listen to this. As U.S. attorney in Iowa, Whitaker said that God's hand guided his work. Here's some of his work. He prosecuted a gay Democratic lawmaker over a $2,000 business dispute. It went to court. The jury deliberated less than an hour and a half and threw it out. This is your acting attorney general. Oh, my God.
Trump actually makes Berlusconi look good. I've been thinking about that
No,
recently.
He doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Well, Berlusconi was at least a good businessman.
Well, but you're saying Trump makes Berlusconi look good.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard it the other way around. Excuse me. So Trump's tweets, even Kellyanne Conway's husband is saying that his latest tweets amount to obstruction of justice.
He's been doing this, with greater, momentum all this year.
If Richard Nixon had said what Trump said yesterday in his tweets, it would have been another, just another, another count on his impeachment. It just would have been another count. He had one going after. Here, listen. Did you hear these tweets? I'm gonna read them to you.
Yeah. Right. He's now providing concrete, or as concrete as you get in this world, evidence of collusion.
Well, he's tampering. He's obstruction and tampering with a federal case that is in fact potentially going to land him in jail. So he writes this: Michael Cohen asked judge for no prison time. You mean he can do all of the terrible unrelated to Trump? Now he talks about himself here. This is Trump writing this.
I mean, it's just so funny. Not related to me paying off the women I slept with.
Right,
that
I know.
Has nothing to do with me.
It was unrelated to him. It was all about him. You mean he can do all of the terrible, all caps, unrelated to Trump things having to do with fraud and not serving a long prison term? he makes up stories to get a great and already reduced deal for himself and get his wife and father-in-law, who has the money, off scot-free. And he spells scot-free like it's a person. S-C-O-T-T, capital S, and capital free. And a lot of people on the internet who saw that said, who's scot-free? I never heard of that guy. And then a guy named Scott Free shows up on the internet. And I forget exactly what he said. He said something like, don't pull me into this sordid mess.
Well, at least American spirit can, still crack a good joke when it needs to.
And then Trump ends with that Cohen lied, and he should. He lied. Yeah, he lied to protect you. Okay.
Yeah, suddenly Trump's upset about lying.
Yeah, I
know.
He lied.
Okay, but that's just part one of the tweet.
Right, and he said,
that in itself does nothing.
Okay, he said, and he should serve a full and complete sentence. Okay.
You're right. So there's your tee up.
Okay. Then he comes out with another tweet just a few minutes later.
Almost immediately. The timing is important.
Right. And he starts it with a quote, I will never testify against Trump. And then Trump says, that statement was recently made by Roger Stone, essentially stating that he will not be forced by a rogue and out-of-control prosecutor to make up lies and stories about President Trump. And here's the weird thing. He has President Trump. This is President Trump writing this. He has President Trump in like quotation marks.
Well, that's the character he is currently playing.
Why are we laughing?
Then Trump. I know, but we're all of those amateur armchair psychiatrists have never once decided to look at this very interesting splitting of his personality that he has done forever.
Yeah.
Appearing as people other than himself to talk about himself in the third person. We just attributed that to, Trump, doing,
narcissism.
Funny stuff. Right.
Well,
but what if he actually just is a real split person out there?
Well, we know. But we know he is one.
I mean, really?
He's one sick puppy. This is one sick puppy. Anyway, so after he puts President Trump, he says, nice to know that some people still have guts. And this is a guy who could Roger Stone, who...
Well, no, he also said no pardon for you to Stone, and then, he really laid it on the line.
He didn't say no pardon for you to Stone.
I mean, to Cohen.
Yeah. And,
yeah.
Okay, so potentially...
he provided all of the elements that you need. The carrot,
well, let me just
stick.
Here, tampering with a witness. Mm-hmm. And both these guys are witnesses. Tampering with a witness is obstruction of justice. It is a federal crime for anyone to, listen to this, to intimidate, threaten, or corruptly persuade another person with the goal of influencing or preventing his testimony.
Yeah, I mean, it's just right out there.
There it is. Tampering with a witness, obstruction of justice.
Well, I'd like to point out that I don't know how you tamper with a witness without obstructing justice. So
yeah, well, exactly.
It almost feels like two identical crimes, but we'll let that go. I'd like to throw as many books at the guy as I can.
Roger says H.W. Bush was a dream compared to our current nightmare. What's interesting is that he's being called a moderate. Today he might be a moderate, but back in the day he was a conservative, back when conservatives still actually compromised. And then Roger says, can we take the discussion back to olive oil, please?
I'm always happy to talk food. Hell, I'll walk you through a beautiful cannelloni recipe if you want, but never mind.
No. No.
Of course not.
Oh, Kristen, don't send me anything about Iggy Pop. I saw this comic and thought I'd pass it along. And it's Iggy Pop opening a Christmas present, and it's a shirt. And he's looking at it and thinking, what is this strange device? And it says, another baffling Christmas for Iggy Pop. Because he likes showing off his now 74-year-old, right? 75-year-old pecs. For those of you who don't understand, I had an unpleasant experience with Mr. Pop many years ago. And I've wished him ill ever since. You see how much my wishes get, he's everybody else.
Right. If you want to put Lynn in a dark place, just look at her and say Iggy Pop.
Jeez.
There are people that you just, they get in someplace and that's all you need to know about them.
Right. And that's really, that's silly on my part. It was
no, it's not. I mean,
ago.
I saw one of my friend's kids kick my dog once, and that was all I ever needed to know about him.
So you hated that kid?
I've hated that kid to this day, and it basically irritates one of my children who thinks it's a little overreactive. But no, that is a character instructor if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, you don't kick a dog unless it's your own. No, I'm kidding.
Jeez. Oh.
Okay, so Kurt thought this was pretty funny because, well, here's what it is. It was an update it was something that showed up on his phone from CBS News, and it says this. Former President George H.W. Bush lies in state. Live updates. It reminds me of, does anyone remember, and maybe if you weren't in the news business, you wouldn't have paid attention to it as much, but that fascist son of a bitch, Francisco Franco, Generalissimo Francisco Franco, the guy who won the Spanish Civil War.
Right.
When Franco was dying, it was big news. And I swear to God, every night there was essentially a story saying, Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dying. It's still,
still dying.
Right, it just became a joke. Generalissimo Francisco Franco is not dead yet. Is still, and it became, he hung in there and hung on, and people in the news business didn't even know what to say anymore. They thought, just don't say anything until he friggin' croaks. Leave it alone. So, and locally, I think this was KDKA television, because people here tell the story. There was this idiot anchor woman at the time who said this. It might have been the other station. Said, this is it. Generalissimo Francisco Franco has taken a turn for the worse. In fact, he's dead. No.
Is that real?
I think it is. I am quite sure it is. Or else it's an apocryphal tale told over and over when old TV news people in Pittsburgh get together. But well, there's one that Sally is famous for. I forget. It was coming out of, I don't know how she said it. It was going into the weather or out of the weather. And she actually said something like that it was a non sequitur, but it was fun. Said something about, and speaking of frigid, I'm Sally Wiggin.
Well, she had to know what she was saying.
I don't know.
Oh.
I have that one a little wrong too, but Sally's got to be on the show soon because Susan she finally retired. She hung it up on last Friday.
It finally happened. Okay.
Yeah, a stellar career here in Pittsburgh, and something that happened that just blew her away. You know, she always wanted to be a sports reporter. That was her dream. But back in the day, no woman could aspire to such a thing. But she managed to pull it off a bit in that she cornered Steeler coverage. Before a Steeler game, if they did a special, if they carried it, Sally was always there. She's always doing specials on players. She knows them all. She's interviewed them. She's a total, and she knows the game. She knows sports.
Right.
And what happened is at the last Steeler game, the press box, which is, a sea of testosterone.
Right. Invited her in.
No, she was often up there, actually. Yeah. One of the print sports reporters said something about, this is Sally's last, blah, 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 and said something, as if she was just one of the guys, that this was her last. And they all started cheering her. And for her, that was the biggest thing ever. Yeah. I believe it was...
really? I'm going to cry. That brought tears to my eyes.
I believe it was Jerry Dulac from the Post-Gazette who said it or who tweeted it out, or I can't even remember what happened, but I never have these stories quite straight, but that did happen, and that meant the world to her. It really did. So I did ask her to come on the show this week, and as usual, Sally in retirement is...
too busy.
Yes, right. She says, well, I have to go to the funeral, and then and then I'm flying to Colorado, and I could do it by phone from Colorado if you want. I said, Sally, relax. Just relax. We'll do it when you get back. We'll do it. So.
Well, you better get on our calendar, Lynn. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. So, what else I got here? This isn't as funny, but it's the fact that this vice admiral committed suicide. Oh, did he? See, I heard yesterday that he had died, and then they weren't saying cause of death.
No,
but then they said,
suicide.
They said something like he had not been under any investigation. I thought, what? Why are they saying that? I thought he must have killed himself. So
yeah,
he did.
And I think it's and I think
wow.
It's time for the federal government and the armed forces to understand that the toll that being a military person sort of inevitably is going to take on a real person's psyche. I mean, if it doesn't take a toll, there's probably something wrong with you. And I think, PTSD is a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah. Bob in Braddock has just sent me something, and it's the second time I've seen this today. And again, my Swiss cheese memory, I did not remember this, but Bob is saying what this other guy said. I apparently did a pretty good rant some time ago after watching a college championship game. Because I saw something at halftime that I had found disgusting. And what it was, I guess, is it was called the Dr. Pepper tuition giveaway. And they introduced these two young people who I guess wanted to go to college or whatever the hell it was. And then they had to throw footballs at a target and whoever won, I guess, had his tuition paid for the rest of their lives or something. It was something that was so wrong on so many levels that it freaked me out. Anyway, I'm being told that it happened at the game that Pitt lost to number 2, Clemson, the ACC championship game. There it was again. Bob says the grotesque Dr. Pepper tuition giveaway. I hope you saw the game, because if you did, you turned it off so you wouldn't relive that nightmare. Why do we make things into... And he said, I saw a promo for the Great Christmas Light Fight as well. And that's another, TV thing that makes me crazy.
That's a contest about...
Yeah, like Christmas. Let's make it into a...
Well, and heaven forbid you should live in a neighborhood with one of those houses that...
Yeah.
That puts on stadium lights every night, all night.
Right. But what is it? This is the American culture that I find so awful. Everything becomes competitive.
A competition.
And, the fact that you've got desperate college kids who can't afford their education, who then, for the rest of their lives, are in debt and can't climb out because of our despicable system. And so you end up with this Dr. Pepper tuition giveaway. And, that's not how it should be. It's outrageous. Or the Christmas tree light fight. I even found when I first heard that poetry was now a competitive sport.
Oh, yeah, they're slams, but, I
know, but I just think it's weird. But I guess I remember our brother telling us that, I can't remember what culture it was, that one of the ways that they settled disputes was essentially a poetry slam. That the whole, tribe would get together and the two people who were at each other's throats would go at each other, maybe singing, or it was something like that. That at least had a purpose. I just don't understand why we can't enjoy anything unless there's winners and losers. What is that? Really, what is that? We're so far gone.
I don't know. Maybe there's so little approval available around that people hunger for it so much that that's a way to satisfy that. I don't know.
All right.
But I am happy that the love of poetry among young people
has grown because of it. Yes.
Yeah, it's not growing. It's huge. That's rap is.
Well, I think rap had a lot to do with it. I think rap had a lot to do with it because rap is poetry. Did we have a caller? Did you tell me that before? Okay. Guys, caller, go ahead. We only have a few minutes. Although we started 2 minutes late.
I'll speak fast.
That's okay.
I'll speak as fast as I possibly can. You were talking about the poetry slams. It made me think, and I don't know if this is right, if that started with the hip-hop community.
Well, that's what we were just saying.
Battles.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think it did.
part.
No, because we were saying, yeah, Susan said, but, like rap and hip-hop. Yeah, I think there's no doubt that that's how it started. And rap and hip-hop have brought poetry back because people don't understand
and love of language and playing with language, and which in itself calls on so many different skills, and the math involved in the meters and it's just a wonderful brain tool. It makes me very
nobody,
happy.
Most people, old white people mostly, didn't get it at all until Lin-Manuel Miranda did Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
because, there's also the dance battles. It's.
That's
I'm
right.
starting to see they battle dancing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Or singing. I mean, all those reality shows. You think you can dance, and and the voice. Everything becomes. Why can't we enjoy stuff without having winners and losers?
I have never seen one of those shows ever. The singing shows, the dancing shows, and all that stuff. But I have seen highlights just to watch the particular dancers. But I'm seeing that, the pop locking and break dancing and all that stuff is starting to go into classical cultures. It's replacing opera, ballet,
right?
Things like that. People are starting to do whole shows and things like that with it.
That's right.
Which I find interesting.
That's almost always what happens. It starts
right. So it does translate into what you guys would find a more appropriate forum. But that's its path to acceptance.
But it starts.
First, you have to teach it.
Well, rock and roll, jazz, soul, all of it starts in the black community. And so it's always suspect. And then it somehow rises. And when white people finally say, hey, that's wrong, then it becomes
and
respectable.
Then we appropriate it.
Yeah.
I tell you what, there's a little, I've posted her on my Facebook page many times. She's a pop locker, which is that, you wave through and pop and lock. Her name is Little Mushroom. She was 7 when I noticed her. I think she's 8 now. She's Chinese, can't even speak English. Saw her on Ellen.
Yeah.
And as a guy who used to do pop locking, this is a maestro. This little girl, is a maestro at pop locking. I have it bookmarked on I watch her like every other day.
Just explain to my old audience what pop locking is. I know it's hard to describe, but it's a kind of dance.
It's a dance.
It's what it sounds like.
Yeah, you pop and you lock. But the cool things they do with it nowadays is it looks like something's waving through your body.
I know.
You know what I mean?
How do you do that? How?
It's like I said. It's an issue. When I was doing it, it was a lot simpler. When I'm watching kids these days do it, I'm like, wow. Their athleticism is incredible in the way they interpret the music, and that's part of it. You have to interpret the music. You can't just start waving around. You know what I mean?
It's gone from just tricks to dance.
Right.
Exactly.
And become quite. It's just amazing to watch what the human body can do. God.
Exactly. And that's why I brought her up, because you said cultural appropriation, and it's not just here in America. It's literally worldwide.
Well, I just want to say that
a little 7-year-old Chinese girl.
Yes. And I just want to say that cultural appropriation could also be called cultural appreciation, right?
And admiration.
Yes.
Right.
That's what I call it.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to call it, too.
I said, where would jazz be without the piano and horns?
Yeah.
That wasn't an because they're all drums.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. When the whole world embraces something, they build on it, and it becomes something wondrous.
Well, and then it grows. That's how it grows, because it gets spiced by other cultures
and
and
it's
other
not
ways of
theft.
movement or hearing or listening.
It's not theft.
Bad. It's growth.
It's not appropriation. It's appreciation. As long as people aren't getting screwed out of what is, their credit, both monetary
that's the newer thing,
Yeah.
People are getting paid. Rappers made way more money than those blues guys did back in the days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Look at Jay-Z, and Jay-Z's like a billionaire.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well,
There we go.
always good to hear from you, Clarence, although I'm starting to wonder, you got a crush on my sister? You never call me.
Well, that's only because it's really
We're
a
friends.
Tuesday, and she helps me out on Facebook, which is like really cool.
No, every once in a while someone says something and it just, makes me, and I show up. But
Okay. That's okay. I'm very glad. I'm very happy.
But let me know next time she's in town. Nah, just kidding.
I will if you want. Okay.
Okay, have a nice day.
You too.
Bye,
You
Clarence.
too.
Bye.
Bye, and bye, Susan. Thank you. And
oh, really? Look what we did. Okay, bye.
yeah, really. Thank you. I haven't had a laugh on this show in so long. Maybe you should be on all week. How would you like to do that? It's just incredible.
Yeah, anytime that you're miserable and I'm available, I'm happy to be here. You know that.
Okay, well, tomorrow. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
All right. See you
I
tomorrow.
think I can.
Okay.
I think I can, yes.
I hope so. Okay.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye, you guys.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.